welcome all of you and thank you for your time, for keeping time. 55 minutes past 1, most of us were already in, and I want to welcome you once again. Our chair and the session and the webinar moderator, CPA Madina Nabutono, who is also a member of the Women in Accountancy Steering Committee, and is also an employee at Uganda Revenue Authority, is joining us shortly. She is supposed to moderate the session. But in the interest of time, allow me, she has requested me to introduce the first presenter, and then we start. She will come in, and then she will be able to introduce the next presenter. Our presenters this afternoon, we have CPA Jacqueline Kopsinje and Mrs. Olivia Chalimpa Matovu. Allow me introduce the first presenter. I believe you are able to see my screen. The presenter for this afternoon, the first one, is CPA Jacqueline Kopsinje Opondo, CPA. You can see her education background. She has a master's degree in organizational leadership. She is a member of the Institute, and she also has a bachelor's degree of commerce. The employment record is also there. What is pertinent to note is that currently she is the executive director Watoto Child Care Ministries. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands wherever we are to welcome the chair, to welcome the presenter for this afternoon. And also when the chair comes in, she will welcome the second presenter. CPA Jacqueline, you're most welcome. Please, the microphone is in your hands. Kindly talk to your participants. We currently have around 217 participants, and the number is increasing. There were around 554 participants who registered. So we believe by the time we are in 2:30, there will be around over 400 participants. Thank you so much. You're welcome, Jacqueline.
Thank you so much, Ambrose. Good afternoon, accountants and those who have got time to come this afternoon for this webinar. It is a privilege and an honor to be here. Thank you, Ambrose, for that introduction. And I really want to appreciate everyone who has got time this afternoon to look at, to be part of this presentation. This afternoon, we are going to be looking at building your personal brand. And just allow me in a few minutes just to share my screen so that we can move along together. And even as I share my screen, I'm so privileged to be part of the Institute, and the Institute has really developed its brand to a level whereby we had many members, but also the impact that it is having in our country at this point in time is actually amazing. And so the brand has grown, the brand has basically continues to grow and expand. And so this afternoon, we are going to be looking at your own personal brand. It is a women's webinar, but I'm so glad that we have had also a number of men participating. And so wherever you are a gentleman. Thank you so much for being a part of this. We really appreciate it. For the ladies, it is amazing. It is amazing that when you build your personal brand, it is amazing the things that you can be able to do. And so by the end of this particular session, we'll see what does it mean. What is it, why do we need to build a personal brand? And then I will take us through a simple guide on how we can be able to do it. And so you're welcome on board. And as I start off my presentation, all of us are familiar with corporate branding. And corporate branding, I mean, we talk about so many things. There is a reason as to why you choose the car that you drive. There is a reason as to why you're holding the phone that you have, whether it is Techno, whether it is Samsung, whether it is iPhone. There is a reason because of the things that you look at. And even then, when you look at the drinks for the ladies, the kind of oil that you use, whether it is for your hair, for your face, you know, it is all corporate branding. And the corporate brands, we know them, they are big, they are, you know, they are international, they are all over the place. You just see the logo and you know what it represents. And so why is it therefore that corporate branding is so important, attracts many businesses, big and small, and people invest so much money and time to make sure that actually that brand is built up? You know, just think about it. I mean, I have put here some of the brands that we know. Well, let's just even take a look at Coca-Cola. You know, wherever it is that you go, you just mention Coca-Cola and people will know what exactly it represents. At a certain time, you know, I was actually one of those people who would not drink any other drink other than Coca-Cola. And so it's because of those things that appeal to the consumer, and the organizations and the companies and the businesses put so much energy, effort, and money to make sure that that brand remains. So what is behind a brand, and what does it take to create a brand? Maybe I can just share from just, I know there are so many international brands, but I'm just going to share about one brand that I am associated with and which I can share with you about, you know, what is behind a brand. I'm going to talk about the brand of Watoto. Right now, I'm privileged to work with Watoto as the Executive Director of Watoto Child Care Ministries. But you see, many people used to know KPC, or Kampala Pentecostal Church, and then about 12 years ago, we changed the name to Watoto. But the Watoto was already known as a brand whereby it was represented by children's choirs, and these choirs are known all over the world, you know, and it was known for taking care of children, the orphan and vulnerable children. And this has been in existence for the last 25 years. But now when the whole, both the church and the child care ministries came under one umbrella of Watoto, then not only did the brand become bigger, but also what it represents. It represents vision. Why are we doing all the things that we are doing? It represents differentiation. Yes, there are so many churches, but this particular one, the only thing that makes a difference with it is a church that also does holistic care by taking care of vulnerable children. And in the recent past, we have also now started taking care of vulnerable women in our city, in our urban cities, and their children. And so that is differentiation, that Watoto represents the difference. But also, when you hear the name Watoto, what comes to your mind? And that is the public perception, But also, a brand represents consistency, you know, consistency of what you are consistently doing. Just like Watoto, even all these other brands that I have put here, whether it is Facebook, whether it is Coca-Cola, there is a certain level of consistency. If you use Nivea as your oil, you want to know whether the same thing that you find in Nivea this year, it is the same quality that you'll find next year. So there is a level of consistency, but also the reputation. What does it take to create a brand? When you create a brand, you also have to make sure that you maintain the reputation, both. And so when we talk about Watoto, you get to know that it is a church which takes care of children, vulnerable women, but also it is a church that is in the middle of the city and also have home sales where people meet in homes. So that is what is behind a corporate brand. So when you look at a brand, it becomes therefore an accumulation of characteristics that form in a destination's image and identity. So when you think about that brand, what immediately comes in your mind? So in other words, branding is a promise. You are promising something to the consumer, something, or an expectation of performance. And that is what Travis in the book, Emotional Branding, said, when he said that, you know what, branding is a promise to the consumer, an expectation of performance, a mark of integrity and reputation. So when we talk about a brand, those are the things that we are talking about. When you talk about Samsung, what does it deliver? What do you think it delivers? When you pick up a product of Unilever, what do you think it will deliver? But also a brand needs to have unique elements which differentiate it from its competitors, because there are many other other products that look like, but this particular one, this particular brand that you're talking about, how different is it from the other? How different is that iPhone you're holding from the Samsung? How different are they? When you hear the iPhone holders talking about their iPhone, you'll be amazed. When you hear the Samsung holders also talking about their phone, they'll also be looking at the unique. So it establishes an image in the mind of the consumer. So with personal branding, however, which is why we are here this afternoon, it is not about logos. It is not about slogans. It is not about sounds. It is more about the values that you hold as an individual. It is more about the quality. It is about the personality and the vision that you have as an individual. So when we talk about personal branding, we are basically saying, look, how do you market yourself to others? Yeah? When your peers, when the people who know you think about you, when they hear your name, what do they think about? What do they think about? You know? And even if we are just right now able to talk about some of the people we know in our city, and we can begin talking about personal branding, even at that level. So let us talk about some of the people that we know, people who are popular. So when, for example, the name Mrs. Janet Museveni is mentioned, what immediately comes to your mind? What do you think of? You know, when the name, the Lord Mayor, Elias Lukwago is mentioned, what do you think about? So immediately a name is mentioned, there is something that you begin thinking about them. And so when somebody mentions your name, what do they think about? All that is embraced in what? In personal branding. Personal branding is also the art of shaping public perception. What do other people know about you? As part of an assignment today, maybe just after this presentation, just go and Google your name. When you Google your name, what is it that comes out after your own name? What is it that comes after your name? What is out there in the public about you? So you see that when we talk about personal branding, many people use personal branding as a career strategy. I mean, they decide that, you know what, this is where I am going. This is the direction I am taking. And this is how I create value. This is how I am positioned as an expert. And this is a way of increasing audience size and attention. That, look, this is where I am. Look, this is what I'm trying to do. And so a brand therefore needs to have unique elements. So when we talk about personal branding, what are your unique elements which differentiate you from others? Well, all of us can be accountants, all of us qualified, you know, all of us are CPAs, but how different are you? The reason as to why we need to start thinking about, because I'm sure my audience today does not only talk about accountants. I think there are a number of people who are online and who are watching. So why personal branding? Because you see, the reason why we need to focus and brand ourselves is because it separates you from others while highlighting your strengths. What are your strengths? We are going to look at that as we look at the guide. Personal branding makes a promise, as we have seen, to others that you have a strong foundation and that you can be trusted. So it is built on trust. Personal branding keeps you focused on what is important to you, you as an individual. It is not you, all of us as accountants, but it is you as an individual. It tells people who you are and makes a guarantee about the future, about what you are going to do and about what you need to do. But also personal branding makes a positive statement about your character, What is it? And we're going to look at some of the things. So now, as we have already seen, we have seen corporate branding. We have seen what personal branding is about, not about logos or sounds, you know. And now we have seen the reasons why you actually need to have your own personal brand. As we can see, branding is noted in authenticity. So some of you may be thinking, but I already have a brand. It's okay. You need to evaluate your brand and see, where am I? What are those things that I can improve? Maybe you are saying, you know, I am all over the place. I am an accountant, I'm doing this, I'm doing the other. But how can you then start building your brand, that specialty that differentiates you from others? So before you start building your brand, you need to know yourself, you as an individual. Yeah, you need to have a very focused personal introspection of you and your strength and all the things that are about you. And then research about your own core elements. And as you research about your core elements, then you come and zero down on what is it in the next few years. Who do you want the public to know you as? What is your brand identity? So I'm just going to take us through the personal branding guide. And in these few minutes, then we'll can respond to any questions that may come through. So the starting point is differentiation. Differentiation. Just like you want to differentiate between a Samsung and an iPhone, personal branding is about standing out. Yeah, it is about standing out, understanding and living your own differentiation, so that those others who are making a decision about you and those who you want to influence can be able to differentiate you from the others. So in other words, how different are you? What unique abilities do you bring? What makes you outstanding? What makes you outstanding? I mean, there are unique things about you. There are some things that are so unique that are only personal to you as an individual. You know, what are those things that sets you strongly apart from your peers? When I started my accounting career, I wanted to be an accountant. But along the way, I realized when I joined URA and started as a tax person, I realized, okay, there is a field called tax, you know? So once I joined URA, the whole dream of becoming now an accountant who crunches all these financial statements basically was narrowed. And now the focus was on tax. But you see, tax is so general. You have income tax, corporation tax, international tax, and all that kind of thing. And so eventually I said, you know what? Now that I have learned about VAT, I'm going to differentiate myself as a VAT expert, because I had come to know that, you know what, there is at that differentiation where I said, you know what, I'm going to focus on VAT, and VAT it became. So you live in the inquiry so that you can define and live in the what? In the power of your own personal branding. And so then you have the values. As an individual, you must have your own values. All organizations have values. And in organizations, and we normally display them. These are the values that we live by in an organization. Go to any organization, you're going to find all their core values displayed. Okay, company aside, your company that you're working for aside, what are your values? What are your operating principles? You as an individual. What are your non-negotiables? Yeah. How do they impact how you feel, how you behave, and how you react? You must be able to eventually zero down on 3 or 4 major core values, because these values, people need to know that these are your non-negotiables. because they know that they are your non-negotiables. Whoever is interacting with you is able to trust you on those non-negotiables. You know, how do you want the world to know what you live by? Number one, you not only communicate them, but you also must make sure that your life reflects those particular values. And then, not only that, who is your audience? Who is your audience? Personal branding is not about influencing everyone. Yeah, it is not influencing everyone. I mean, MTN made a decision that everywhere you go, you are going to get the network. That is the corporate MTN vision and what they decided to brand everywhere you go. But you as an individual, you are not there to influence everyone. It is about selectively being influential. It is impossible to make everyone like you. So why try to appeal to everyone? Yeah. So the personal branding is basically, you know, once you have defined your audience, therefore your branding is targeted towards that specific area. And you must be able to sit down as you do your personal introspection and decide and say, you know what, who is my target audience? Who is it that I am going to focus on to serve? Who will pay me? Whom am I going to offer my services to? As you define your audience, you know, then you begin realizing that your audience is not everyone. Who are those who will influence those who pay you? But because you see, you also want to influence the next generation. There are those ones whom you have been called to influence. Then you also have supporters. So as an individual, you must be able to define your audience. And then what are your passions? What are the things that energize you and make you attractive to others? You know, there are some things which you just cannot help but find yourself doing, you know? When you are clear about what moves you, then you seek out the links to your passions with what you do and how you do it. Now, one of my passions is teaching. And I think throughout my whole career, whether it was at URA and as a VAT expert, I mean, I trained VAT all over this country, including eventually being attached to the URA training school, because whereas I was doing tax and VAT, I was passionate about training and teaching. Even when I was at PwC, I was still coordinating the training of the department. Even when I went back to URA as commissioner, I think I was still the head of development. No doubt that now part of my time and part of my work is basically to do training and training and training. And so I realized that that's where my passion is. You know, when you are connected with your passions, there is positive energy, and that energy also attracts those around you. You know, so what are those topics that you talk about endlessly in your job, in your career? You know, what is it that you love most? Sometimes we get through the drag of doing so many things that we don't like, but because we need to be paid, we basically drag on and on and on and on. And but you say, I need a job, I need the money, I need to pay school fees, I have bills to pay. But you begin realizing that, you know what, your passions have basically taken a back seat. It, and you just wish if I had more passions, because that is the unique you. That is the unique you. Find a way of integrating you to actually have a career strategy. Maybe this is the time you need to do that. Then we talk about superpowers. Now, when I talk about superpowers, some of you who have children, I'm sure in your houses, you have all those kinds of cartoon, cartoons and basically superpowers, whether it is, you know, I mean, there are so many. My children here, they just keep on telling me about this, about that, about this, about that, you know, and recently when we lost Black Panther and, you know, Chris, and it was like, oh my God, okay. superpowers? What are your strengths? What are your strengths? What are your strengths? You know, these strengths, by the way, they are not strengths that we find that we developed. These superpowers are things you do better than anyone else. They are things you do with a little effort. They are core to who you are. And let me tell you, by the way, where all this came from. God gave us all this. God gave us all these superpowers. God gave us these strengths, you know. I remember the story that I was reading in the Bible of Exodus and in chapter 31 and 35, where God chose Bezalel and Oholiab. And the Bible says that he gave them wisdom, skill, knowledge, and understanding in all kinds of craftsmanship, because he had a work to do. You see, there is a work to do. And this work to do requires people who are going to put their strength where it actually matters. Yes, there are those ones who are going to specialize in tax as auditors. You're an accountant, but your specialty is as an auditor. There are those ones who require to be cost accountants, financial reporting. Those are areas where you can specialize. Forensic accountants. There are things that come easily because God has already gifted you with those strengths. So why don't you just focus on those strengths and thrive in them? You know? Sometimes we discount them, but this is something I do with a little effort. But by the way, let me tell you, when you focus on this, you'll be amazed that you can actually be known by them and you can deliver value at a much higher scale and be revered for your excellence. And then people begin using superlatives to describe you because you have basically now known who you are. Through that introspection, you have seen, you have known, and you have known it all along. And even your colleagues have said, by the way, you are so good at this. You are so good at this. There are people who already know you. And they possibly have been telling you for some time. It is now time to basically, if you are so focused on building your own personal brand, what are you waiting for? There are things that you will be receiving an award for. You know, so, you know, I think it was Zig Ziglar who said that, you know what, we have all been created unique and originals, but we die as what? As photocopies, because so-and-so is doing it, so therefore I'm doing it. So-and-so is doing it, therefore I'm doing it. No. What are your strengths and how can you make sure that you now make sure that these strengths are now superpowers and you are delivering value at a much higher scale? So we also talk about the ecosystem, the brand ecosystem, which we call the tribe as well. You know, because you see, strong personal brands don't go it alone. They have a community of mentors, sounding boards, emotional support friends who help them to get clear and positive and make impactful decisions and ultimately achieve their goals. So now this is your tribe. Your tribe are those people who have been telling you, by the way, you are so unique. By the way, why don't you do this? And you have mentors. And some of these mentors may not necessarily be people whom you talk to on day-to-day basis, but they could actually be mentors whom you follow. Some of you are, you are whether on Twitter or on, on certain LinkedIn pages. There are some people whom you follow because there are things you are continually learning from them. There is a way they speak into your own life and they encourage you, you know. For a long time, I tell people that for a long time, I was mentored by John Maxwell. And so at the greatest opportunity, I had to go and actually go through a certification program and meet him in person and eventually get certified as what? As a John Maxwell coach, trainer, and speaker. But I have been following John for almost all my working life, So those are the community, the tribe, But even now, as I do my work, there is a whole lot of tribe that I move with, people who speak into, people who might share ideas. Can we do this? Can we do this? How can we influence more? And so, the digital age has made it easier to grow a strong support system in terms of people you can follow, people who can speak into your life, people whom you can relate with, you see what they are doing, and you can ask them questions, So this is something that we just need to do what? To basically look at that tribe. What is your tribe? And so even as I more or less come to that, to close, to the close, we must be, many times we focus on what we do, but we never ask the question of why am I doing what I'm doing? Why? What is your why of what you do and why you do, and of your job, of your career? I mean, a number of you have started consultancy firms. Why that consultancy firm? Yeah. It describes your role in tuning in with your vision for humanity and into reality. God did not create us to live on our own. There is a whole why of involving so many other people that you need to get engaged with. So what is your biggest hope and dream? What value is your dream bringing to the world? So as I journeyed through being a tax person, you know, I went into internal audit, still under tax. You know, when I eventually retired, I retired. When I eventually retired from URA, I think at that point in time, I'm like, okay, Jackie, what have you now become? What have you become? And I sat down and I had to do a self-introspection and reflection and all these kinds of things I have been talking about. And I began realizing that, you know what, my passion, my why is that I want to make a difference in other people's life, and decided, you know what, let me go into leadership and leadership development. And so now I speak into lives. I speak, so my value and my dream is to see people reach their potential. That's what get my waking moment. So when Ambrose calls me and says, Jackie, can you come and inspire the accountants? I'm like, yes, that is why I am here. That is my why. That is why my why. You know, and I find that I'm going to pursue it. I have dreams of how this can be made better. And so just as I close, I just want to highlight these two quotes. Outstanding people have one thing in common, an absolute sense of mission, and that was said by Zig Ziglar, and also by Martin Luther King. He said, if a man hasn't discovered something to die for, he isn't fit to live. All that is about branding. All that is about branding. Branding and who are you? Yeah. So I've posed many questions. When you are clear about the answers to all these questions, you have what you need to build a strong, authentic, and compelling personal brand. After 1 year, you can do a review. But even those who already have brands and you're already doing something, there is a need to do what? To continuously do a review, because brands evolve. Brands evolve, and yours might as well evolve, because your vision is much bigger than you. Your vision that God created in you is much bigger than what you can see or you can imagine. And so brands evolve. And so I want to thank you so much for listening to me. I'm sure there are many questions that you are raising, and I'm sure there are so many contributions that you can make. And I'm so privileged that my friend Olive is also going to be sharing about this and sharing her experience. So thank you so much, and I'll wait for you at question time.
Yeah, thank you so much, CPA Jacqueline, for the wonderful presentation, for insight, for inspiring the young accountants. And we have 417 members on the platform. We thank you so much. I believe the chair is online. CPA Madina, are you able to hear us?
Yes, please.
No, thank you. Yeah, please take on the session. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Ambrose. Thank you very much, Ambrose. Good afternoon, participants. Sorry, I had a network challenge. CPA Jackie, thank you very much for your presentation. And thank you for always being willing to come and present to us, the women in accountancy, and the men also. I'm not forgetting, we have also men who are participating. Thank you for the presentation. Building your brand. She has really done justice to the presentation. How can we promote our career? How can we promote our career into like drilling in what can we do really in our own independent careers? Yeah, the Q&A part has been, people have been asking questions, but I'm here to inform you, we will handle the questions once the second presenter is done with presenting. Please be patient with us. We are going to invite the second presenter, Ms. Olivia Matovu. Ms. Olivia Matovu, you're welcome. Please join in.
Thank you, Madina.
Ms. Olivia, a minute, please. Ms. Olivia is an advocate for 14 years experience majoring in commercial litigation, alternative dispute resolution, and tax. She is an accredited arbitrator. She's a partner and head dispute resolution department, Logmark Advocates, Kampala. She's a member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, UK, the Young International Arbitrators Group of the London Court. She is a member of the Uganda Law Society and the East African Law Society. Members, please, let's welcome Ms. Olivia Matovu to present the second other opinion on making your personal brand. Ms. Olivia, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Madina. Thank you, Jackie, my co-presenter. I must say I'm very honored to present with you this afternoon. As I shared with you earlier, you are my teacher as well. You taught me the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, and I was honored by you teaching and mentoring, and I'm glad that now we are sitting on the same side, and I'm also sharing my experience. Good afternoon, members, women in accountancy, men in accountancy. I am very honored to be with you this afternoon. And I think I've already differentiated myself that I'm a lawyer amongst accountants. So I think Jackie, when you talked about differentiation, there is that differentiator already with me. And I'm glad that I can share briefly what Jackie, expound on what Jackie talked about. Allow me to share my screen for my presentation. Okay, I've already introduced myself and that's who I am. But in addition to what Madina talked about, I'm also a teacher. Like Jackie said, I have a passion for teaching. So I'm a lecturer at the Uganda Law, at the Law Development Center, Kampala. I'm also a trainer at the International Center of Arbitration and Mediation in Kampala. This is a new ADR center. I'm also a trainer of trial advocacy skills with Justice Advocacy Uganda. And finally, as a person and a human being, I'm a mother and a wife. So Jackie has taken us through pretty much what personal branding is, and I will not have new things to talk about. But when I talk about personal branding, for me, what I want to emphasize is the authenticity. One of the quotes that Jeff Bezos of Amazon gave was that your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. Jackie has talked to us about personal branding, particularly in light of our careers. For you as CPAs, for me as a lawyer, an advocate, what I need to do to brand myself. But when we look at that quotation of what people say about you when you're not in the room, I want to take this discussion to personal branding in our communities, personal branding in our homes. What is your personal brand in your home? What is your personal brand to your children? What is your personal brand to your wife or your spouse or your husband? What is your personal brand to your family and relatives? That is the side I want to speak to about branding. Many times we look at indeed these corporate brands and brands that we looked at them at only career level. But I want us to take a sneak peek into our personal lives. Are we in sync with our professional brands when we get back home? Are we in sync? For example, Google makes a promise to us to deliver value services, to connect us with our family and friends. Do they deliver that? Do we get connected to family and friends? Do we get connected to our career peers? Do we get connected to our environment through Google? Do we get connected to our people that surround us through Google? So when we're talking about personal brand, that your distinctiveness or your difference should not only be reflected in your career or in your profession, it should also be reflected in your home. It should also be reflected in your community. That when they speak about CPA Jacqueline, what she displays at office as the CEO of Watoto is the same that she displays at her home, and there is no contradiction. When you talk about consistency, many times we display brands like integrity, and we display them to our clients, we display them to our customers. The question is there integrity being displayed in the people you relate with in your community? Is integrity being displayed before your children? So are you actually consistent with that brand? Okay? Market visibility, and market visibility, it applies across the board. How visible are you, for example, to your clients? Do they know you? If I'm seated in my office as a CPA doing my accounts, do the clients know that I have a role to play in those accounts? As a lawyer in my office, when I work on opinions, do the clients do they have visibility of Olivia doing that work? And how is that visibility created? It's engagement. It's engagement with your clients. It's engagement with your audience. But how about visibility in your home? Are you visible in your home? If a professional colleague came to your home, or if you hosted a party at your house and you invited all your clients and your customers, are they going to read that visibility? Are your children going to be able to see you, or your spouses, or your relatives in your home, the same way that your peers are looking at you? So the market visibility should be consistent in terms of your audience. If somebody were to interview your child and it's in your absence, your child should be able to speak to qualities about you, which even your client, if interviewed on a separate note, would speak the same. Another issue about brands or personal or corporate brands, even personal, they should be valuable. I should have value attached to me as a professional, Olivia Matobu. Jackie should be valuable. There should be value attached to her. There should be value attached to a corporate brand that you're using. Jackie gave examples of iPhones. What value do you get from an iPhone? Maybe it's speed. Maybe it's storage. Maybe it's camera. You know, there are certain features about an iPhone that you like, and you'll go for an iPhone and not go for another brand of a phone. Let's talk about, as individuals, as career professional women and men, what's my value? Why should, let's say, the team at management level want me to be part of a certain team to handle a particular project? What value do I bring to that team? Am I the leader? Do I have the leadership skills to galvanize teammates and we accomplish? And that the managers know that once I'm on that team, they don't have to keep calling me and following up. Am I the motivator of the team? That I'm the one who will keep energizing the team to ensure that everybody can, you know, even when they've burned out, they're able to deliver the project that we have put together. So on the team, what is my role? So we need to examine ourselves as individuals. As we look at these corporate brands and we admire them, they have a particular value that they bring. So as individuals, as you promote your personal brand, what is the value that you bring to the table? Let's go back to our communities and our homes. What value do I bring to the table as a mother in that house? What value do I bring to the table as a wife in that house? If it's in a family gathering, what value am I bringing to the table? I know many of you probably you have families where probably when you have an event, there's a particular member of the family that cannot, is always looked for. Have you called so-and-so? Have you looked for them? Did you check where haven't they shown up? Then there are other family members who when they don't show up, it's nobody's business. So the question is, what is that person's brand in the family that no one even misses them when they're absent? And then there are those who have built a particular brand within the family that when they are not available, it's as things are at a standstill. So I would like us to look at personal brand from another angle, an angle of even in our personal relationships. As Jacqueline has already talked to you, that the characteristics of corporate brands also apply to personal brands. She talked about being unique. And one of the questions I would ask you, what is your unique selling point as an individual? We are all created differently. We all have different unique traits. We are not the same. So what's your unique selling point? What is that one thing about you that people talk about which is different from the rest? Which people can say, if we need an honest opinion in this area, we can approach Jacqueline. If we need an analytical stance in this area, let's approach so and so. So what is that about you that is unique, that your colleagues, your clients, your family members, your community members will come to you and ask and seek you because of that differentiator? I've talked about consistency, I've talked about valuable. Jackie talked about your audience, which is clientele, and like I've added, family, community. Most of this sorry about that, I think my network got an issue. I said that in most of the big corporate entities, we've seen that there is what we call the CSR, giving back. And why do they do that? Because they know that there is that community, the tribe that Jacqueline talked about. You don't live in isolation as a person. Even the corporate entities or the successful brands don't live in isolation. So they must touch the communities in which they are. So as a person who's building your personal brand, that community of tribe that you have, how are you touching them? How are you impacting them? How are you impacting your colleagues in office? How are you impacting the cleaner, the driver, the gate man, at the same time the CEO? Then when you go back home, how are you impacting the domestic assistant in your house? That when they leave your home, what will they have taken back? That will be your personal brand, that they'll be able to go back in their villages and say, for the time that I worked in this home, this is how I've grown because of so and so. So you're selling something unique, which is not only being sold to your clients who are paying you money, but you're touching other lives which are surrounding you. I'm continuing the screen share. Okay, so I would like us to examine what is our current brand, because we actually already have a brand. Each of us has a brand already. And I'm asking all of us today or after today to do some kind of homework. We need to introspect. Find out who are you? Who am I, Olivia? What is my identity? Okay, what are my qualities? What are my traits? What is my vision? What values do I live by? Okay, do people trust me? That is very key. Do people trust me? And trust is built, and trust must come from someone who's authentic and genuine, not somebody who, when they're in a particular place, they will act, and then when they're in another place, they'll act a different person. There should be a certain sense of authenticity for people to trust you, both your family, both your colleagues at work, both your clients, both your peers that you work with. So I'm asking all of us that we need to be able to introspect, because as we stand, we already have a brand, only that maybe we have never zoomed into knowing what our brand is. We've never maybe purposed to see who we are to other people. What do other people say about us when we're not in the room? And then what are the qualities we have demonstrated to people, to our clients, to our teammates, to our peers, to our colleagues? What are those traits we have shown? Then if we've been moving without a particular vision, but there's been something, there was a dream you wanted from maybe when you finished your education as a CPA. So there was a vision somewhere. So what was that vision? And you look into it. Then what are your values? What are the values that you've been living by? And then you'll see that already there's a current brand. There's a current brand that you have already built. Okay? Now, if you want to now move forward, I would like to take us to now, what do we aspire to be? When we do an examination or introspect of who we are now, what others see of us? The question is, do you love who you are? Are you comfortable with what you found? If you ask for feedback from your teammates, from your clients, from your children, from your spouse, do you like what you're hearing? Do you like what they see of you or think of you? And if yes, how can you improve it? If no, what can you do about it? You must begin to dream. Envision what you want to see of yourself. Envision what your grandchildren will talk about you. Envision what the people you've been working with will talk about you when you're born. For example, Jacqueline was in URA and now she's in Watoto. So URA, they have a certain image of Jacqueline when she was still with them. So envision what you want people to say about you, your workmates to say about you once you move to another institution, once you begin your own consultancy, once you take another career journey. What is that you want to be like? What do you want to be referred to as? And this is what I'm telling you, determine your differentiator. What is your A game? I'm using A game because you're looking at what is your best, what is that strength? Jacqueline talked about strength as one of the things you use to build your brand. So what are your strengths that you can work with to make that dream come true, okay? What qualifications do you have? Because as professionals, we are qualified. We are qualified, and in those qualifications, we have particular strength in the different fields we have undertaken. So what are our qualifications? And how can we work with our qualifications to build our brand? And those qualifications, how are they also helping in our community? For example, if you're a CPA, do you apply some of the same skills in your home? Because you're managing other people's finances. You're the one that plans finances of the organization and ensure the financial sustainability of that organization. Are those skills being applied in your house? Are they being applied in your family? Do you give that kind of role to your family that when you sit there as a CPA and others maybe are lawyers, others are teachers, that your role as a CPA is actually the differentiator in those engagements. And therefore you are the point of reference when it comes to that. The other issue is what makes you, what is the authentic you? As Jacqueline talked about, what are your values, okay? What are your values? What are your passions? What is that you can do without being paid? And you'll go back home feeling like you've earned $1 million. There are certain things I do without being paid and I go back home and I feel, wow, that was beautiful. And yet I haven't even earned a penny. So I know that's where my passion is. And one of those is what I'm doing today, that I'm sharing knowledge, I'm sharing experience, I'm sharing what I've come to learn and which I think I should share with others. For me, that gives me peace. So I believe that I'm also supposed to be a teacher, a mentor, and I'm pursuing that. So I've discovered my passion, and I've merged my passion of teaching with my qualification of being a lawyer to go back and teach at Law Development Center, to go back and teach trial advocacy skills for advocates to be able to improve on their advocacy skills, to teach arbitration, which is one of my passions as well. So because of that, it has enabled me to be able to merge that and find my purpose and be able to move by that. Okay. Obviously, you need to have a vision for your life, and that vision should be in sync with your career, but also with your family. Because usually, why we take the career journeys is that I think we want to have a good family life as well. So, what's your vision? And does your vision for your career, is it in sync with your vision for your family? So, it's important that we sit down and visualize our future and be in a place to be able to say that while I'm working towards this, I know it's enabling me to also achieve this in my personal life. I'm not only doing it for the entity I'm working with, for example, for legal market advocates. I'm not only doing this only for Law Development Center, but I know that when I leave Law Development Center, I've carried it home, and that my children have also benefited from that skill that I have, or that my colleagues or my friends have benefited from that skill that I have. So our vision should encompass the different tribes that surround us, as Jackie talked about. So that at the end of the day, when you sit back, you have impacted the lives in your career, the lives in your personal life, the lives of your friends, to mention but a few, okay? And when you're on your personal branding journey, it's important to introspect into your weaknesses. Obviously, we are human beings, none of us is perfect. So it means there are things we do not do very well. There are things where we have weaknesses. So it's important to conduct what I think accountants, so usually strategy thinkers and planners talk about, what you call a SWOT analysis. And in that SWOT analysis, you're looking at your strength, you're looking at your weaknesses. So what are the weaknesses that might block your personal brand? What are those weaknesses that will bring a bad name to your reputation? And then look at the threats. Then make a plan on how to deal with those weaknesses and the threats. Once you've made that plan, then also go ahead to set your career and personal goals. Like I said earlier, you should be satisfied with your career as well as your personal life. So it's important that as you set on a journey for personal branding, you're putting your career and your personal goals in sync. And then market presence and visibility. As I talked about earlier, our market, our audience is not just our professional networks. It's other networks within our communities, it's other networks where we interact in our churches, in the mosques. Jackie has told you she's now CEO Watoto. That's a church. But she also made networks there while she was probably working in URA. So our networks are different, the different tribes that we interact with. So it's important that we are visible to our networks. And those networks are our family, our children, our relatives, our workmates. So for you to be visible, these are some of the tips I've given. For purposes of career growth and development, prepare a resume that resonates with the authentic professional you are. Here I emphasize authenticity. We don't want to be, I saw somebody put on the chat that while we know these things, we leave photocopies of others. Many times when we see somebody who's successful, we want to copy and paste, copy and do what they are doing. Be authentic, be you. Prepare something that speaks to you, the you, and not another person. So prepare a resume or a CV that resonates with the authentic you. Many of us have, let's say, profiles on LinkedIn. We have profiles on our websites. Do those profiles resonate with us, with the authentic us? Or can somebody read that profile and go behind our back and say, this person is such a liar? So it's important that we resonate with who we really are. Have your personal bios, okay, with your promise and value addition within the personal bio. Participate in knowledge sharing engagements with your peers, like we are doing today. That's one way of creating visibility of ourselves. So get an opportunity to share. If it's in a team of workmates at PwC, you can as well organize a knowledge sharing engagement and begin with your teams, and then grow it further, come before the CPA. Then maybe you can come and share with us as lawyers in terms of how to manage our finances and your skill set. So participate in those knowledge sharing engagements with peers and professional colleagues. That will bring your visibility out. Consider participating in mentorship engagements for young professionals. Because like Jackie talked about, when you're building your personal brand, you want to live beyond you. You want it to impact future generations. And how best do you start that? By mentoring the young people below you, by mentoring young professionals within your career path, who you have certain information or knowledge to pass on, which you've gotten as a result of your experience, which they don't have. By mentoring your own children, your own relatives, and people around you. Then use professional network platforms like LinkedIn. Write articles in newspapers, in professional journals, in personal journals, and put your brand out there. So as Jackie talked about, that there are things to reflect about today, to reflect about what your values are, to reflect about what your passions are, to reflect about your vision, to reflect about your strength, your qualifications. Once you've tabled those down and you've known what your purpose is, then put it down. Put something down that shows who you are. Then go out there. Let it not keep, let it not keep in your mind. Go out there, let people be able to see you for who you're saying you are. Now, as I brought to the close, I've had this statement that Maya Angelou talked about. She said, I have learned that people will forget what you said I hope you won't forget what I've just said this afternoon. That people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. There's a mistake there, it should be how you made them feel. So the one question I want to leave with all of us, and a video I want to play for us to listen to is, does the market or your audience feel your brand? It's not about just what you're saying, that I am this. Do they feel it? And that's why you come to the issues of consistency and authenticity. Do they feel it? When you say I'm a person of integrity and you speak to it, can your audience actually feel? And have you demonstrated that integrity, that they've taken it back home and been impacted by it? So people will forget what you say, what you will say about yourself, probably what I've introduced myself as. You may forget. People may forget what you did. Many times you have seen people who have done great works, one mistake alone and the entire world is castigating them. So they'll forget what you may have done, but how you make them feel will continue mattering. So I play that video for you to listen.
Hello, please, Mrs. Olivia, try to see that people here. We are not hearing well. Thank you.
You're not hearing the video? Hello?
Yes, the video, increase the volume a bit.
The volume is,
The
okay,
volume.
okay.
Yes, Mrs. Olivia.
You still can't hear?
Breaking. Yes, please.
You can't hear still?
Yes.
Hello? You can't hear?
Yes,
and I put at maximum. Let me just forward it to Ambrose and he plays it right away.
Okay, please. Thank you.
Maybe it will be louder with Ambrose in the meantime.
Okay, please. Thank you.
Yes, Mrs. Olivia, we can share it with the participants.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Dear participants, I really wanted that video to play. I hope you'll get time in your free time to listen to it. But one of the take homes there is really about giving in our all in what we do, or giving it our best, and ensuring that we do our homework and we are in the moment. And one of the things about personal branding is you must be in the moment. If you're dealing with the client must feel that you're feeling the client. So when you leave the client is happy that you gave them your time and your all. If it's in a family event, you've given there your time and attention and contributed constructively. And if you're in any other engagement, you're fully immersed, you're fully there. So one of the take homes I wanted us to go with is that how we make people feel is part of what impacts our personal brands. If we go into a meeting, as she talked about, and we're on our phone, obviously there's a feeling that the person will get whoever you're engaging with. And despite the fact that you will talk about your brand being attentive to detail, a listening person, that you give the clients your best, for as long as you've demonstrated that you are not all in and you're not giving it your whole, then that will not resonate with your brand. So it means that there must be consistency in what we do, so that people will feel how we've treated them. They will see more in our actions than in what we will be selling or saying that we are. Thank you very much, participants, and I'm ready for the Q&A session. Thank you, Ambrose, and thank you, Madina. I think over to you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Olivia. Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge on how to promote our brands. It was a rich presentation. Maybe key take-homes: as you promote your personal brands, you must assess your values, your strengths, your attributes. You must have a career strategy. You must assess your experiences. You must have a vision in life. Thank you very much, Mrs. Olivia and Mrs. Jacqueline Kobusinje Opondo. Now we go to the Q&A session. We'll start with Jackie. Members have been generous in posting several questions here, but we will run through because of time. Hello.
Yes, hello.
Yes, Jackie. There is
Yes,
a question from. You can
okay.
You can access the Q&A session. Please proceed by selecting some questions and you give feedback to the audience. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Obviously, there's been quite a lot of attention, and thank you so much also for the feedback and the comments. I received that, and I really appreciate them. I've actually been trying, as Madame Olivia was presenting, I tried to answer a number of them in the chat. And so when you go there, you'll be able to find some of them. Now, I'll just start by basically looking at some of those ones, several, which I can put in some kind of a category. I see that we have some accountants and who are starting in their career. And there's possibly so much that they are looking at. And there's so much that they are looking forward to. And they're asking themselves and saying, look, how do I build my career when I'm just even starting? I even haven't started my professional qualification. I possibly am not, I don't have the money to do that. Or maybe I have just started, but there's so much that needs to be done and I don't even know where to begin. But I think that is where I want to start by what? From answering the questions. And I believe that we'll be able to address a number of people who are in that category and possibly did not have the boldness to actually ask some of those questions. Now, the starting point is you are somewhere and there is something that you are doing. You have aspirations, you have dreams. Those dreams will come to pass. Those dreams sometimes change because of the environment, because of the circumstances. But wherever you are, I think the starting point is whatever your hand finds to do, do it with everything that is in you. Be the best that you can be in that moment. You know, one of the things that I believe is that there is no experience that is wasted. There's no experience that you gain as an individual that is wasted. Because whatever it is that you are doing, you will find that actually you need that kind of skill later in your life. Even if it is relating with people, even if it is doing that manual work that all I need to do is just enter these things and here you are talking about branding. When will I ever get there? No. There is a moment as to why you actually need to be doing that at this point in time in your career. It could even be volunteering. A number of people these days start by volunteering. Be the best volunteer that you can be. Whatever they tell you to do, do it. Because let me tell you, there is a way all these things build up. There is a way these things build up. So, because you see, as you do those, you are building your credibility. You are building your trust. You are looking at your values and evaluating. People are seeing you and they are saying, what is it that you bring to the table? How faithful are you in the money that they are giving you to account for? How faithful are you when you are given a simple assignment and you are able to do it? How easy is it for you to obey instructions? It can be as easy as that. I mean, I am an employer and I employ people, but a number of people in our organization start as volunteers. But let me tell you that people whom we eventually get on board on full-time basis start with the attitude they have at that point in time. And sometimes you basically give them difficult things and just want to see how they respond. And so wherever you are, the attitude, because you are building your credibility, that is where it all starts. Taking the simple things and doing them well. And that is basically the definition of excellence. Doing something ordinarily, extraordinarily well. Now, once you leave that step, and yes, now you have started working, you have started doing things, you need to ask yourself the question, where do I see myself in the next 5 years? In the next 5 years, what should I be doing? And I mean, here I'm talking to people who are basically, you are doing this today, you are doing the other today, you are doing this, you are all over the place. You don't seem to get the experience. And sometimes if your employer, your direct supervisor does not give you that work, ask for it. And you say, you know what, I have basically been in accounts receivable. Now can I do something to do with accounts payable? Now can I do something to do with treasury? Now can I do something to do? Ask for the work. Because you see, as you ask for the work, you are expanding your experience. You're expanding who you are. It is you who is benefiting. And one of the things that I normally advise people is the day you begin trying to work on your brand and you are employed, stop thinking employer, employee, that I am an employee. Work at that as if you are the employer, as if you are your own boss, as if you are your own what? As if you are your own boss. Because you see, that particular section that you are leading, you are heading, it could as well be your own company. Here, that is an opportunity you have actually to prove your credibility. And those are the things that eventually build your personal brand. Those are the things that eventually build up later, because you learned over time that you need to do what? You need to continuously work as if it all depends on you. So, contribute your time and talent and money to charitable causes. I think Madame Olivia has mentioned that. Contribute your time. You see, when you contribute your time to charitable causes, there are things that you learn that you'll never learn in your 8 to 5 job. You learn how to relate with people in a different way. You will learn how community works. You will learn the kind of perceptions that other people have other than your area of work. There are so many things you learn about your community, about people, about so many things that are happening because you contributed your time. And you contribute your time, you begin learning from other people, some of the things that you never get to learn in your 8 to 5 job. So contribute your time to charitable causes. And as you learn all those things, you are building you. You are building your brand. You are learning so much about your country, your community, about the people around you. You are learning about all this, then you bring all this experience to who you are. That is how you begin creating your own personal brand. And as you work towards your 5 years time, at the beginning, you seem to be scattered in so many things, but as years go by, you begin realizing that you need to focus. What do I need to focus on? You begin to realize, by the way, I have strength in this area. I have abilities in this area. There's something, you will never know you can be able to do something effortlessly until you begin doing it. And that is why, even if they are telling you, go to the most remote part of this country, you go and do what? And begin working from there. Be passionate. Be passionate. And so those are some of the things that I wanted to do what? To respond to. Now, there was something that somebody asked, I'm just going to read from the chat here, you know, and this is, I think David said that how best can you promote your brand, especially in your current situation whereby you may not get a job in your desired career? Yeah, how best can you promote your brand? You see, your brand, we have talked about characteristics, consistency, values. How else are you, how can you be able to demonstrate all those in where you are right now? You know, in most of the cases, and I think that is something that I have noted over a period of time, is that people stop focusing on where they are now and begin focusing on where they want to be. Yet where you are now prepares you for where you are going to be in the next 5 years. And so where you are right now needs as much focus even as you work out for the next step of where you want to be on your future. Be the best, present your full self, be present with all your values, with consistency, with planning, with all the things that you are learning. Be present where you are. David, I'm sure that question is that you're asking it, but it applies to a number of others. Be the best that you are where you are in your current situation. You may not get the job that you are of your desired career. Be present where you are, because where you are present, it will prepare you well for your next career. Are you open to mentoring recent graduates interested in tax as well? Well, I know I can lead you in the right direction, but right now I am no longer, I think I only advise other people on tax. I actually advise the tax practitioners on tax, not that I do practice tax myself. I think that's the person that they are saying, that recent graduates interested in tax. No, not at the moment, but I can lead you into the right direction. Right now, my focus is on leadership and training and developing other people to reach their potential. So how do you go about having a career change late in life, particularly in the environment where previous experience was highly rated? Yes, Josephine, this starts with, where do you want to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now? I think that's the question that you yourself must be able to respond to, because you already know, yes, you are highly rated, but it is personal brand. There are those things that you have desired to do. There are those things that you said, if I have all the time in the world, I could do this. That could be a calling on your life, whereby possibly you want actually to say, you know what, change. I mean, when I tell people that now I am into the business of raising children and orphans and vulnerable children, and when I'm not talking about education, I'm talking about slums and women and community. I mean, somebody is like, but Jackie, your whole career in tax and internal audit and all those kinds of things. I said, yes, but you see, all those things are necessary now. You find that, that's why I said you cannot waste anything. You cannot waste anything. All those things work together for good of where you are going. And so, but you see, it goes back to the individual. What is it that you find satisfaction in? What are your passions? What are your strengths? How do you use them? How do you use them for the greater good? How do you use them? How do you become relevant for the times ahead? And so that is something that you can be able to do, what? To ask yourself, but also start planning. You need to have a personal marketing plan as you build your credibility and you build your tribe, you know, you are building your brand along the way. So maybe I can stop for now and give opportunity to Madame Olivia to be able to scan through some of the other questions and respond to them.
Thank you, Jackie, for the responses to the questions that were put forward. Madame Olivia, you're welcome on board. You can scroll through and get exceptional questions, but there's an interesting one, since it is also dubbed the Women Forum. The question which was put forward by the participant, that how can you develop a career at 45. And still, as women, we have a lot of struggles, a lot of challenges that hinder us from achieving our careers. Kindly start with that as we scroll through other questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madina, and thank you, Jacqueline, for that detailed response. I think you left no work for me, just to say I'm going to just, in addition, I agree with what Jackie has said. Now, if I've had the question, you said, how do I start a career at 45? I think once life has given you an opportunity, for as long as you're still alive, and God has given you life, you can start a career. Having a career doesn't have an age limit, except, of course, if you're saying that you're going into a particular profession and then there's an age limit. But people have come up with their own consultancies, that you, instead of being employed in an institution where there is a retirement age maybe of 60, then you start your own consultancy. But at 45, you're still well within time. Even if it were in an institution that has a retirement age of 60, you're still well within time to actually advance for those 15 years, such that by the time you clock 50 and you're retiring, you're in a position to start your own business, whereby you are then continuing with the line that you are in before retirement. And yes, challenges are there for women and also for men. There are challenges in life, not just career-wise, but generally. But once we have the will and we purpose, and we see a community of people who will encourage us, I think we can make it. As long as you try to look at the people, society you're with, are there people who are motivating you to be better, or are there people who are bringing you down? Look at the people around you. Are they encouraging you to be better than you are, or to improve yourself? And if they are not, then look for those who are going to mentor you into becoming a better person, a better career person. So look at other career people who are probably 50 and talk to them and ask them, how did you navigate, this career path? They'll give you some tips which will help you be able to navigate the challenges you're facing and advance your career at the age you're at. The other question I want probably to deal with, I think there's a Patricia who asked, how do you deal with working in a position you didn't study for? For instance, I'm a loans officer, meanwhile I studied accounting. Even when I have applied outside of my workplace for accounting jobs, nothing seems to show forth. I think Jackie touched this and said, you start where you are. Apply the skills where you are. As we talked about, personal branding is about your character, your value, your passions. And as a loans officer, you're working probably in a bank or a microfinance institution. And in processing loans, you have to look at, let's say, for example, people's cash flows. You have to study those audited accounts that they are presenting to the bank or to the financial institution you're in to even confirm that what they are displaying is right. So with your background in accounting, you're able to advise, let's say, the credit teams, and you're able to look at those financials that they've presented to prove that they're able to pay the debt or the loan, and you're able to say, no, here the figures are not making sense. And by making yourself that relevant, probably you'll find that maybe the people in the credit department will want to co-opt you, or even in the finance department will want to co-opt you. So begin where you are, then apply your passion, your skill to that place, let's say the loans officer, or the position you're in, to be able to prove relevant to the team members that you're with. Another question that came through was, if you don't have family, does it mean you can't make a brand? And I think I've already answered it on the forum, but maybe just to also answer it on audio, is that it depends on what you perceive as family. Obviously, I talked about family referring to children and a spouse, but you see, people they have different references to family. To some people, your friends are your family. To others, it's your colleagues at work who you consider family, if you haven't yet even gotten your own. So you must look at family from a broader perspective. The point I was making is that you don't restrict personal branding to only when you're in office from 8 to 5. And for you, that's when you brand yourself and prove your brand. And then after 5, a different personality takes over. That's why we talked about consistency. So personal branding should be around all the tribes you relate with outside your job, your 8 to 5. The other people you relate with when you leave work. Those people your personal brand should be able to be seen by your colleagues, your friends. the community where you live. So that's what I meant. So it doesn't mean that if you don't have your own family, you don't have children as yet, you're not married, that you can't brand as a person. Remember, the definition of personal branding is what people say about you when you're probably not in the room. What would others speak about you? What is the impression you have on others? So that is what personal branding is. And why it's important to apply our very best, whatever levels we are, even before we get to the top, is because when we get to the top, it's that name that we have built from down that will sell us. I think you've seen that people have started out careers, let's say as accountants and lawyers, and along the way they aspire maybe to become politicians. Now that has become their dream. But because of the brand that is associated with their name, you want to run for public office. Some people are saying, no, we can't vote them because ABCD, when they worked in this place, they did this. When they were here, they did this. So you imagine, so even your future aspirations get affected, but by what the kind of brand you've created from when you started. So it's important to actually determine what you want to be like in future. That whichever career path you take, that name or your brand sells you. For example, if you want to live, you are and go into Watoto, there's a brand that you have already created, and that brand will sell you among the community in Watoto. So it's those values, the passion, the character that you've displayed, which together you put in sync with your qualification to serve the community, to serve your clients, to serve your employer if you're employed, and if you're an employer, to also serve your team, to serve the people who are below you to be able to become better career professionals. And one of the lasting parting shots I can give you is that it's important for one to have initiative. Personally, in my office, we have people who, let's say, for example, you have a project to do an assignment. There are people who are like legal assistants, but they take the initiative. They prepare the presentation. They'll come and speak to you about this. They'll give you solutions. They are showing a spirit of leadership. They're not waiting for let's say, the manager to come and tell them, now do this, but they come up with solutions. Therefore, when you're in such a team, the team leader will always know that if I want a solution, I must look at so and so. Already you have built a brand. And when an opportunity comes, that team leader will recommend you to be able to shine in that opportunity. But that will only happen if you have created a particular brand for yourself among your peers, among your colleagues, among people in your community. I think those are the questions I can answer. I believe the majority were answered by Jacqueline. Thank you very much, Madina.
Thank you very much, Thank you very much, ladies, for sharing us your experiences, your knowledge about promoting our personal brands. I think the ladies did a great work. I want to thank them very, very much for always, especially Jackie, when you call on you to come and present to us and share with these women about every topic these topics help us to build our future dreams, make us think about our careers and see ourselves in other capacities than where we are. So thank you very much. We are very grateful. Jackie is also an independent consultant in leadership and strategy. I saw one of the questions was about whether she can mentor young tax accountants, young professionals in taxation, but also has another role. She does independent consultancy in leadership and strategy with NASA Leadership Consult. If you want to really build your leadership skills, Jackie has been a mentor to several young professionals. She can do good work and guide you accordingly. Thank you very much, Jackie. Thank you very much, Mrs. Olivia Matovu. We are very honored today to host another sister from another profession. Thank you for really collaborating with us. Next time we invite you, please come again and share your ideas, experiences, and your knowledge that will build the young women professional accountants into the careers they would want to be. Thank you very much. I hand over to you also not forgetting. Thank you very much, the organizers at the Institute. Thank you very much for considering women and giving us this forum to really interact, be there for each other. And also today, probably, thank you, the participants. Our numbers have really grown. When we meet in this hotel, the number hasn't been this big, but we are grateful. The number has really been good today, above 400. And in future, we hope it will be more than this. Thank you very much, everyone, the participants. Thank you very much. I hand over back to Ambrose to communicate any other communication from the Institute. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you so much, CPA Medina, for chairing the session. And on behalf of the Institute, we want to thank our presenters, CPA Jacqueline Opondo Kobsinje, Mrs. Olivia Chalimpa Matovu. We want to thank you so much for wonderful presentations on building, promoting your personal brand. We believe the participants have been inspired to achieve their potential. And we have a series of webinars coming up. On Friday, we have taxation of employment income. Please endeavor to attend. You register, you can even register now. Then we have also another webinar on IFRS 13. It is a very interesting webinar as well, bearing the impact of COVID-19. So you need, I believe you have an interest in attending that webinar. It will be there on 25th of September. We will be happy to host you during that period. To you participants, we thank you so much also for your time, data, time, and being available up to the end. You will receive your certificates and also the presentations through your email addresses. Mrs. Olivia shared with us the video, which you could not play in the interest of time, but we are going to send it to you on your email accounts. You shall be able to please endeavor to watch it, connect it with what she has said, and also the presentations, so that you are able to achieve your desired potential. I also want to remind you about the CPD records. If you are a member, go on your a member account, log in using your member details, ID, and password. You will find a field on online services. It is in the blue field, blue background. Click on them. There are two options, either a CPD record or a CPD return. You can confirm this CPD, the Women in Accountancy, now after this webinar, and then it gets updated on your account. So please go there and update your CPD details. Then I also want to remind you about the mentorship. Jackie indicated about mentorship. We also have we are developing a program where professional accountants have to mentor aspiring accountants. And in that case, the students or aspiring accountants have to register for what we call practical experience training program. So you as a student, he or she goes on the portal, registers for that practical experience training program, and he or she is able to document his or her experience acquired on a regular basis from where he or she will be working, under the supervision of a mentor who may be one of you professional accountants in the room. So should a student approach you that I would like you to be my mentor because you understand my work practices, either you are their external auditor or that person is you administratively, he or she is your supervisor or you are his supervisee, please accept that person, because the student will only need to get FM number from you. And then when he goes on the ICPAU portal, he's able to use that FM number and the portal accepts him or her. So please do that, help us in that regard as we develop the profession. We believe in the next few years, there is no one who will not, there are few people who will be professional accountants when they have not gone through the practical experience training. And those few people are those who have come from other bodies. They have already acquired experience the other side, and we only come and accredit, admit them here at ICPAU. If maybe someone is a member of ICPAC and has come here, maybe a member without undergoing, but the rest have to undergo through that level of training in addition to finishing their CPA courses. So I want to thank you so much for listening to me, and I want to thank you, Chair, again, once again, for a wonderful presentation, and also our good presenters. Then to you, the participants, we wish you the best as we meet on Friday for the taxation of business income, taxation of employment income webinar. Let me wish you a very nice evening. May God bless you. Goodbye.